going on, everyone? So for the second night in a row, yesterday we saw a moment at the end of the game where a player broke the unwritten rule, where a player ended up taking a shot, making a shot, and the game was already out of reach, far over. And of course, the opposing team didn't take it right. Last night, you saw in the Timberwolves Brooklyn Nets game, Timberwolves were just dominating the Nets. Game was over. Mike Conley had a wide open three, took it instead of taking the shot clock violation or anything like that. And Brooklyn took exception to it. And you saw Dennis Schroeder and Mike Conley going at it, and it was just again another little scuffle. I mean, it's not the NBA of old, right? These guys aren't really fighting. These guys aren't really doing anything, but they get upset. People get bothered. Oh, the game's over. You shouldn't do that. It's disrespectful. It's this, that, and the other, right? And it has sparked, of course, this big debate, as it usually does when we have these types of things. But now I have a YouTube channel where I can talk about this stuff. And so, of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. Jump down and let me know down in the comments. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But personally, look, I understand all sports kind of have these unwritten rules and these things that, you don't bunt in a no-hitter, right? There's always these things that it's a sign of respect for the opposing team. Personally, and this is just me, I understand the perception of it's disrespectful. You're just trying to stat pad. You're just, trying to essentially spit in our face. It's not cool, right? But to me, it's the game isn't over until it's over, until the clocks hit zero. But you saw once again, the Warriors and Charlotte Hornets game where Lester Quinones ends up taking a shot, right? The Charlotte Hornets took exception to it. Grant Williams getting all extra, being obnoxious. That guy is it's just a disaster. But you also saw Miles Bridges not really be very happy about that. And Quinones said something that I completely agree with, where he said, basically, if you were that, it's basketball, right? Relax. If you're that upset about it, you should have played defense. And again, I do agree with that. This is the NBA. We're not playing and even in Pop Warner and stuff, I think, hey, see those scores? I know some people are oh man, this team just lost 104-2 and the coach got suspended. To me, stuff like that, it's bad, right? Not the running up the score. You need that in life. You need a good kick in the behind. You need to be remembered that that there's people better than you and that there's teams better than you and that there's things that you're not always going to be able to win at, right? It's the whole debate with the participation trophies and stuff, but that's another debate. We'll save that for another time. But personally, again, maybe I'm just, a 90s kid that grew up and we didn't have that stuff, right? It was, hey, if you lost, you take your L, you move on, you become better, and you learn from it, right? Now, if you translate that to the NBA, you're talking about the most elite of the elite. You're talking about the not even 1%ers, the 0.01 percenters. These guys are grown men. These guys are the top of the top, right? And they're crying over a late game possession rather than the guy taking a turnover, which affects his stats. He takes a shot or he dunks the ball or he does whatever, right? If he did some 360 windmill dunk and just flipped you off and gave you the bird and stuff, then yeah, go fight the guy. But if again, Mike Conley takes a three at the end of the game and makes it and everyone's just standing around, that's your fault. How is that? That's not Mike Conley's fault. That's your fault for not playing defense. Quinones goes up, dunks the ball. Again, that's your fault. He's right. It's just basketball. And I understand it's disrespect. No, you know what was disrespectful? You not playing defense and leaving an NBA player wide open. You know what's disrespectful? You not doing your job and playing the game and winning the game. If you're disrespected about that, then that's something with you because you should have won the game. Right? Teams win and lose. It happens. Right? You're not going to win every game. It's fine. But to get slighted and feel disrespected because a guy took a shot rather than having taken a turnover. There's also all kinds of like situations. Like you see players all the time go back and forth and give the ball up because no one wants to take the turnover. No one wants to take, the knock on their stat line. So what do? All right, well, everyone's just standing around. Let me go and score. Now, I like there have been times where I'm trying to remember the players, but I'm sure it's happened several times. I was just trying to think of a specific example, but point is, we've seen times where like a guy is dribbling out the shot clock, right? Game's over. He's just dribbling the ball. And then somebody will like come up and like, go to like dap him up and then take the basketball and run the other way. Like stuff like that, I think is just silly. Like to me, that you're just being petty. Like at that point, you're being obnoxious, right? The game's over. Right? You're just trying to, I don't even know what you're trying to do. Trying to flex, trying to like punk the guy. Like there are circumstances in which I think, okay, you're just being childish. You're just being ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous. But if the other team has the basketball and they're the losing team and, there's still 12 seconds left or whatever on the clock, even if there's 1 second left on the clock, again, you don't want to play defense. That's your decision. You don't have to play defense. Go ahead. Stand there. But don't get mad that a player, especially a young player, usually is the young guys, right? Very rarely do you see a guy like a Mike Conley who's been in the league forever do something like that. But still, like, I don't knock Mike Conley for that. Right? Like, if you don't want to play defense and you want to just stand around and do nothing, well, that's probably the reason why you lost the game. So why are you getting upset that the team that's winning decided to go and continue to play basketball rather than turning the ball over? And I get it. It's again, I can understand the perspective of like, oh, well, it's disrespectful, but it's just something you don't do. It's an unwritten rule. But that doesn't mean it's right? You still are getting paid for every second. There's still audience members, still fans there. You still have a job to do until your job's done. Any job, right? Say you work at whatever, you work at Home Depot or you work at wherever, right? Walmart or something, right? If there's, 40 seconds left on the clock or something, and you're just like, and there's customers and you're still on the floor and you're supposed to be helping, and you just decide to stand around and your boss is yelling at you like, dude, you still have like a minute left. Can you at least like help that lady bring her stuff to the counter and then you can leave or whatever? And you're like, oh, why are you on my back, man? Like the shift's over. Like it's not over. You're still being paid. You still have a job to do. You still have things that are there, right? And then if you don't want to do it and somebody else comes over and does it, you don't have the right to get upset and be like, oh man, like, oh wow, you're just showboating. You're just trying to like make me look bad. Like, no, you're making yourself look bad. Like, no one's making you look bad. You're making yourself look bad by just standing there doing nothing. To me, it's the same thing. You're upset and you're trying to fight a guy, which you're not even really trying to fight. You're just trying to puff your chest and act tough. We're not in the Malice in the Palace NBA anymore, right? Guys aren't trying to get these fines and these suspensions and all that stuff. These guys aren't about that life, which they shouldn't be. Come on, you're making millions upon millions of dollars. Like, just knock off the tough guy routine. Like, that's why, like Williams, like Grant Williams drives me crazy. Like, dude, relax. You're doing nothing. Like, you're just making yourself look goofy. Like, sit down, be humble. Right? You're making so much money. No one thinks you're going to do anything. Right? But it's just, to me, it's one of those things where it's like play the game. It's not over. Right? Like, you take offense to it, fine, then be offended. That's your choice. Again, just because somebody else is playing through the clock, then that's their job. They're being paid to do that. Now, again, if you're the winning team and you want to dribble out the clock or whatever, then fine, dribble out the clock. But it's not something that I feel is like absolutely necessary and it's like bad for basketball or whatever. It's just, I don't. I think it's silly. Again, there are circumstances, right? There have been situations throughout the course of the NBA that I, of course, disagree with. Like I said, you're dribbling out the clock, you're trying to follow the unwritten rule, and somebody comes over and just like steals the basketball or whatever, and then it's just obnoxious, right? Like, then sure, right? If you're the team losing and you've just basically conceded, would it be a little more disrespectful to maybe come over and like steal the basketball or something? Maybe, right? But I still default to like, hey, the game's not over till it's over, right? Until that clock hits 0 and the buzzer sounds and you guys are high-fiving and saying good game to everybody, you still have a job to do. You still have something going on. You still have to play the game. Again, these are your grown men. Like, we're not talking about like, now if this was like some historic thing or whatever, right? Like, it's different. Like, I understand the no bunting rule, right? Because it's like you're breaking up something that very few people have ever done in the history of the sport, in just like a terrible manner. Like, there are some unwritten rules that I think you should follow, right? Again, like, don't bunt when a guy's going for a historic run, right? Like, if a guy has a breakaway layup and he's about to set a all-time scoring record or something like that, and you come over and take his legs out or something, it's like, dude, like, come on, he beat you. Let him get the bucket. Let him have his moment. Like, there's some stuff that I'm like, all right, like, I do understand that. I get why that's looked at as frowned upon, but to ask somebody not to continue to play and do their job because you don't want to do it or you think that it shouldn't be done, then that's on you, right? Like, again, like, instead of getting upset in the moment and trying to fight somebody, remember that, use that as motivation, as like, okay, like, don't worry, we're going to see you again, and then put a smackdown on, right? Like, next time you go and next time Charlotte plays the Warriors, whether it's this year, next year, whenever, next time you're going up against Quinones, like, all right, man, watch what's going to happen. Like, do it in the game. But to me, it's just silly that, you're going to puff your chest and do what? You're going to yell at the guy, like, relax, sit down. That's why Quinones was telling him, like, the clock's we're still playing. The ball's still alive. Clock's still ticking down, right? It's not my fault you don't want to play. Like you said, it's basketball. Right? You're playing the game of basketball. It's not that serious. If it was that serious, you'd play defense. He's right. If it's that serious, you would play defense. If you were that concerned about somebody scoring at the end of the game, you would lock down and play defense. If a guy or a team or whatever, they want to run the clock out, fine, run the clock out. That's fine. Most guys do. Most teams do. But I just think on the rare occurrence where somebody doesn't and they decide to score on you, like, that's your fault, right? Like, again, if they're like kind of like, you should always be prepared, right? Like, Mike Conley shooting the 3. Good. He made it. Guess what? He just got another 3 on his total. He just raised his percentage. Better than taking a turnover. That's a negative, right? Guys have all kinds of bonuses and incentives and all kinds of stuff based on play. I mean, who knows what, do you know what Quinones has? Right? How do you know he doesn't have milestones for, like, if he scores a certain amount of points in the season or whatever? Like, there's all kinds of little things that people have. And you're upset because what? Again, play defense. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. How do you feel? Do you agree? Do you think, like, yeah, like, look, still a game, still have a job to do, still got to play? Or do you think, no, like, hey, it is an unwritten rule. You shouldn't do that. It's wrong. It's disrespectful. Again, like I said, I see the viewpoints either way. I just personally think it's silly. You're going to get all worked up over that. Like, take your L. Go home, remember it, be humble, use it as motivation. But anyway, again, let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you. See you in the next one. Thank you.